What's up, everybody? This is JT. You are listening to Beyond the Breakdown with Six Scars. I'm joined again tonight by my friend and great host, great guest, as always, is Will Brawley. How you doing,
I'm
man?
the host.
Dude, you might as well be. Like, this thing is off the rails already. Holy shit.
All right. I was vibing to the song.
Well, a little birdie told me that the dude who did it is a bit of a tool.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
All right, man. How you doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah.
Kind of buzzed a little bit from the coffee I had earlier.
Was it a good brew?
I did a cold brew, yeah.
Oh, nice. So, last time we had you on here, it was I like to equate a lot of what that was the fun one, I think. Like, that was kind of feeling everything out, seeing how it was, I think. And then we said we'd come back with the second episode. So this is gonna be a little bit of a different tone. We're gonna keep it, we'll lift it up when it needs to be, but I definitely wanna touch on some things that hopefully can help be a little bit therapeutic and also help others in the same process. So I guess the best way to do it would just be to kind of just dive straight into it.
Yeah.
So I know a little bit about the things that you've gone through, and you're obviously you're being gracious enough to let us in on some of it. So if you just want to kind of start wherever you want, and then we'll go from there.
Like as far as like childhood things, or
yeah. If you're okay with that.
I mean, it's I'm sure there's people on there that aren't any strangers. Like any kind of like domestic abuse, like from a parent, verbal, physical, both, or one or the other. I was kind of like a bystander in a way, as far as like what I received personally. It was a lot of me behind a closed door listening to it. It was pretty jarring, pretty traumatic, but a lot of it, honestly, I've kind of blocked out. It's like a blackout in my mind, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't really recount a whole lot in very much detail, other than it was just a lot of thumping, yelling, like, just slurred verbiage from, my dad, just all kinds of obscenities and just horrible things that you'd hear screamed at our mom at the time, and it'd be me and my younger brother, because we shared a room. And then where we were at the time, I mean, we lived back around the Boise, I guess you could say Boise border, but the Idaho border into Boise, in an area called Nissa, Oregon. Like it was like a desert out there, not really anything there. I can remember to as far back as that, just like kind of blurry kind of things of like the same kinds of just days of that, and I would just be sitting listening, wherever I'd be at. Then we eventually would move to Newport. Don't know when the year was, maybe 93, 94, 92, not real sure. Because when we left him, it was about 1995 or wait, was it 96? 96? I don't remember the year anymore. But that was a house with a lot of just dark, painful memories attached to it. Sucky thing is it was right on the Oregon coast, so there's a lot of, go down to the beach, but we didn't do that a whole lot with our family, just because of how things were. And I might be misremembering some of this. It's all right. It's a product of trauma. Just your brain's wanting to purposely block things out and maybe put something else in there that's not so depressing or painful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny that when I'm asked this stuff and I'm thinking about it, my mind doesn't want to let me remember a lot of the details. Maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's not a good thing, but like I have memory of my mom, we lived up in an apartment complex in just outside of the main part of Newport. And I remember one time there was a bad one and heard a door open and close, and our dad rings us all up, and we get it. He drove, I think it was either his pickup at the time or he had a Ford Falcon. I think he might have had both at the time. And it was just pouring down rain torrentially. And we drive up down and then go up the road, and he, tracks her down on the far side, and going against traffic, just wanting to get away from it. So that's a memory. And I kind of recount myself thinking, this isn't okay, for anybody to experience. And I was like, how do we get out of it? And, yeah, yeah, there goes my mind again, just wanting to have me shut up about it. But, yeah, just, there's a lot. So I could put so we had a principal at the school that we went to in Newport who knew of our situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he knew that we weren't well off. He knew that, we didn't have didn't have a lot of clothes. So out of his own pocket, he would help us out, or to just cheer us up. He'd take us down to the bay front in Newport, and he'd let us get yo-yos, or he'd take us to a a store like Fred Meyer's or Walmart, and have us pick out shoes and clothes or toys, and just, get our mind out of what we were going through back at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he'd help our mom out. So, I mean, there's things like that when I think back to it, like people like that, for people going through any kind of trauma, are vital to have around you. Those good Samaritans, or just people that understand what you could be going through, as far as that you need somebody,
Yeah.
And so I've I've talked about on Facebook in the past. I don't remember how long I've had you on my Facebook. I think it's been a few years, right?
Yeah. I think the other day was like our actual friendship thing on Facebook for 4
Yeah,
years.
I saw it. And I only had one memory that it showed to reposted it. I can't remember what it was about, but if you've seen me post things up on my Facebook, I wouldn't, waste 2 seconds if I saw something, I'd react and I'd punch a guy's face in or anything. That's really not me, right? Me is you could say pacifist, right? That's kind of like a reference to what Liars Pacifist is, aside from what I've told you about what I see in society about people want to be a pacifist for liars instead of standing up for something that's wrong, That's kind of how I am, as far as I don't like confrontation, right? And that stems back to what I went through when I was a kid. Because when I think about confrontation, I think about violent byproduct or products from that, or violent, just what could stem from it, right? And so I do my best to avoid that if I can. But if I have to, yeah, I'll face it. There's just things in life where you can't avoid, having to. So the real Will is a person that just, he wants to help people. I want to be that ear, especially for people that have been through, a domestic abuse at the hand of a parent, or just at all, because abuse is abuse.
Yeah.
And if you've been through it, even if you haven't, being that ear for people that are still going through, coming to terms with it and finding their closure from it, being an ear for them is going to be very important. They may not know how to express their their gratitude for it, but it counts a lot. We had our uncles, our grandparents, aunts, friends of family when we were going through this, and when we finally got out, that were there for us. We spent, I can't remember how long it was, but we lived out of my grandparents' hotel for a while.
Oh wow!
And that's where I discovered, Dragon Ball Z. And
yes.
So people won't get this, but it's true. That show taught me about resilience.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, dude.
People don't think that stuff like that has any kind of like message or like point to it, but there is, not all of it. And I'm not saying every episode of the show had a point to it.
No.
A lot of it was just fun for fun, giving people what they wanted to see. But like for Dragon Ball Z. Goku, like he is so persistent in the face of an obstacle. He does anything he can to overcome it. And like the way Akira wrote his character, like I didn't model that after Goku, but I was taught elements of resilience and just not backing down if you can, from that show. And so that show has an important place in my heart, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I kind of not spurred straight away from your question about, that part of my life, but
No. It all ties into it. Yeah,
back to the first one of this we did, where you asked what I could say to people that are in the midst, write in something like that, and I was saying be strong or whatever. I say more important than that, speak up.
Yeah.
Don't enable your situation by staying quiet. Whatever that situation is, I understand immensely that it's not easy to do. I still have problems even speaking out about what I've dealt with, and I don't think I have closure from it, to be honest with you. I don't know if I ever will, and that's because I've refused to go and talk to him about it, because with my brothers, all they get from him is denial, and plus his mind's kind of going, so it's like, and he's sick, and so I'm just kind of thinking, I'm pretty sure that I would be just fine if I'd ever spoke to him. Would it help me if I did speak and said my piece? Maybe, but I have my wife and my family, my friends, friends across the states like you, to talk to and stuff. So I'd be all right.
Well, I mean, you brought up the point of, not necessarily having closure from it, but also not knowing if you would want to talk to them, because there is a chance at closure, but at the same time, you don't know what you could trigger.
Yeah. Who knows if I would end up.
Yeah.
You go. That's fine.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I don't know if I'd end up kicking his teeth in, or if I'd end up giving him a hug or what, I just don't know.
I understand. So,
because go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that part of me has a little bit of an understanding. Like, I wasn't told from our father a lot about what he went through when he was a kid, but as far as I know, his dad wasn't around. As far as I know, and he wasn't also very good to him. Or my dad had siblings. So there's that part of me that kind of like, has some empathy, but like hell do I condone or say it was all right what he did just because of what he went through. It doesn't make it okay for him to act out and deal with his trauma in the way he did with us. And that goes for anybody. I'm not going to do that with my wife or my kid, my friends, family, treat them bad just because of what I went through, But I have empathy in some capacity for my dad about knowing the fact that he didn't have a lot from his, and he never dealt with it. So, you know, he chose to deal with it with anger. So,
Yeah.
yeah. You eat Reese's while it's still in the wrapper, huh?
What the hell?
Is he
Oh,
trying to say?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
illiterate punk.
So he's saying that it's for crazy people.
I mean, you know, it's to the people that talk to themselves and to inanimate objects, apparently.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Pat. He's awesome as always.
He made this behind me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also did the new intro for Liars Pacifist, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Oh. What did he say? Oh, exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, I still got to figure out how to put that intro in the front of my stuff. I'm like ignorant to how to do that stuff with this platform.
I'll see what I can do to try and help you out on that. But you know, getting back to where we were, you were talking about how you didn't know what you would do if you did see him. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. How do you think that? Well, I mean, obviously it affected you, but what way, in what ways did it affect, like being able to build relationships and things of that nature?
So there was issues for a time, and I think even still now, I could say to a capacity that where I had trouble making friends. Hey, because I didn't trust who I was talking to, right?
Yeah.
And I also didn't want to let him into my life and what I was going through because I thought that they would think I was a freak or that I would be needy, you know? And so it affected that, and it kind of made it to where I'm not so much a people person. But the funny thing about that is I say I'm not a people person, but I will talk to anybody. But in my head, I'm like, when is this conversation going to end?
Yeah, I know.
You know? So it's kind of like I'm making myself be vulnerable. I don't know if I want to say vulnerable, but I'm making myself be approachable.
Yeah.
Like I've been told that I'm approachable, you know.
Did it blow your mind?
I mean, I would think to myself, if only they knew my head, you know, then I'm standing here thinking to myself, get away from me.
Right.
You know,
So I could only imagine like during the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of, so no, I don't think I want to say that. People are going to be like, that's just insensitive, man. So I'll just skip it.
We'll save that for an off the air thing.
Yeah. So it did affect how I spoke to people, how I thought people perceived me. Kind of made me feel like nobody has good intentions to a point.
Yeah.
It affected me wanting to be intimate in a relationship as far as like finding somebody for the longest time, because I was mid-20s when I met my wife, and I could say I was finally get that point where I felt like I could let somebody in. And there's still to a point where I haven't said everything right with her to her about my childhood and stuff, but she knows the majority of what it was to know that me, you know. And then it also affected me being very apprehensive about being a dad, right? I wanted to be a dad, like bad, you know, like bad. But I also was afraid of passing anything on, you know?
Generational
And so,
curse.
but I was like, right. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to rob myself of the joys of being a father because of what I went through, you know? And I'm glad that I decided that and just said, you know what? No, find love, build a family, you know, despite what I went through, you're not going to be the same way as what you knew or what I knew. But I do catch myself kind of thinking to myself, if there's anything that I am doing with my son or my wife that I might have seen my dad do, but I'm not like consciously aware of it somehow. But I tell myself, shut up. That's just going to get you in a depressive mood, putting yourself in that state of mind. So I guess that's how I'd answer your question about how it's affected making relationships and stuff. So
I mean, branching off of how it affected your relationships, you were saying that, it's hard to cultivate friendships, and things like that. So how did music really play a part in that era for you?
So I'm sure you've done this now or when you were a kid, where I would listen to so before I listened to the stuff I do now, my gateway was people like Ted Nugent or Jimi Hendrix, Michael Jackson, Tom Petty, things like that. A lot of others. So let's see if I can recall songs specifically, and I don't think I can, but what I would do is I would escape into the song vicariously as if I was the singer singing this song about something I had been through. And that was so vital to me and so therapeutic that I noticed that when I did that, I felt better. And so music's been that for me up until now still. I didn't start writing lyrics until I was maybe 15, 16, maybe 17. I sat down one time and I'm like, wrote something out. Probably looked like crap to somebody else, but I'm pretty sure the first thing I wrote about was what I went through, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you what the words were, what I titled it. It's probably some angsty, title, but music's just, I think me and Aaron touched on it pretty good about how music is just this it's like an escape without leaving, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but that's kind of
I get it.
How I feel about it. Because, like then I started to find music like Linkin Park. And the funny story with Linkin Park, I was asked by one of my cousins. We were in the back of, I want to say either my mom, she was driving us somewhere, and we had our cousins with us, or we were with one of our cousins that could drive, and they brought up Linkin Park, and it was before I knew who they were, but the name to me sounded like it was some rapper, and I hated rap back then. I would just badmouth rap all day, every day, unless it was something like Beastie Boys or Gangster's Paradise, something that actually had some kind of meaning or like meaning behind the lyrics to it. And then when I finally actually heard Linkin Park, I realized how much I related to what Chester and Mike would write about. And I'm like, oh, damn, it's like they're taking stuff right out of my head, because most of my back catalog is pretty much trauma to music. Yeah.
That's a good way to say it, man. Yeah.
And Linkin Park was like, man, they were just so vital. Like, so Place for My Head, Crawling, Runaway, Somewhere I Belong. And I mentioned it in the last episode we did, Easier to Run.
Yeah, man.
Where he's talking about that battle with the voice in his head, and where he wants to face this stuff and get better and not run from it. But it's easier to just run away from it like it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's the line in the bridge where he says something, but running is so much simpler than change.
Yeah.
And that rung so true in my mind. And like Somewhere I Belong, like you brought up, or like Numb,
yeah.
or like Leave Out All the Rest. you know, like Shadow of the Day,
Yeah.
you know, like I could go on with Linkin Park because he was there, you know. Yep. This might be a tender subject, but he was molested when he was a kid, you know, and that doesn't leave you, you know, and that stayed with him all his life up until, you know, his unfortunate, you know, death.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then I had bands like, you know, Skillet, you know, when I found Skillet through my friend Steven, if I remember correctly. And then there's bands like Trust Company, you know, Stabbing Westward. Although, you know, Chris wrote about a wide spectrum of topics. So it wasn't just the angsty stuff that he'd write about, right? But 9 Inch Nails, believe it or not, people might not think about Trent, but that kind of way, but he went through stuff too. And in an obscure way, he wrote about trauma too. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So like people thought that he just wrote about drug use all the time or like just hating the world. And he wrote about that stuff, you know, he did, but he also wrote about other stuff like expressing his mind and how he wanted to heal, you know. But yeah, music like, is just it's that thing, you know.
A lot of people, you know, they don't think about it, but I mean, Trent wrote Hurt. I mean, look at the lyrics of that. And I mean, you know,
probably one of the best examples for 9 Inch Nails that I can reference anybody to that thinks that Trent was just this angry person at the world, at himself, that didn't have any kind of empathy or understanding of how he may have treated people, or, you know, he got it. He knew.
Yeah.
He knew that the world wasn't absolute garbage all the time, and not everybody in it was. And Hurt touched on stuff like that, you know, where he had regret about how he may have treated people, and how he wanted to be better than it. You know, that's a great that song. It's funny that some people still think Johnny Cash wrote it. There's a reason why he chose that song to cover it, to reference his life.
All respect to Cash, though. Like, I mean, he did a phenomenal job with it, but I still like the inflections on the voice that Trent does on Hurt, man. It gets to your soul. It really does. So you said you started writing lyrics when you were about 15 or 16.
I think so.
Yeah. So do you think when you were envisioning being the singer, do you think that's kind of where it started to formulate up in your brain?
I think so, because I started to think, you know what? I know what words are. I talk. This might seem silly. I read books. You know, I read why am I spacing what you call it? The books, the CD inserts that come with the lyrics.
Yeah. Like the album booklets.
I read those and stuff, and so when I started out, I want to say I was being heavily influenced by Linkin Park at the time, and so you could read what I would write out. Like one song in particular that I remember got like thousands of responses on their forum was called "Cry Before the Dawn," and a lot of people thought I wrote that about like a societal breakdown, or like I can't remember exactly, but I was writing about the final time I would mourn my childhood and finally rise above it, right?
Wow.
So for like, not to say that every 15, 16, 17-year-old couldn't write something deep or profound like that, you know, or influence of a band like Linkin Park, because let's be fair, not everybody thought that they wrote the deepest stuff, but it was deep. So, you know, some of that came from me envisioning being the singer in like a band like Motley Crue or Def Leppard, Poison, or Metallica, Megadeth, or because that's what I listened to when I was really young, you know. But definitely it did kind of spur wanting to write, so, and sing. I still don't think I'm the greatest, but you know what? Yeah.
So
that's not the point. So
so obviously not necessarily changing subjects, but just branching off of it. Along with what happened in your childhood, what other, if any, things kind of developed? I know we talked about dissociation before we started. Was there any other kind of things that ended up happening, like that you kind of noticed?
In what kind of context? Like,
I guess I should say, yeah, I apologize. I guess I just mean, did you find yourself changing who you were due to what you went through?
you mean like it changes as far as like to suit somebody else, or just like
That either suiting somebody else or changing just to survive.
yeah, I think I did stuff like instinctual, like changing, like how my mind would think from the childhood stuff when I was still a child or kid or whatever. Like, if I'm understanding your question, like I became conscious, and you heard the I guess analogy or saying of breaking the chain or breaking the cycle.
Yeah.
Stained. I guess I'm failing to understand how to answer this, but I did have changes stem from it and from other experiences too. Like I had influence from, like, as far as religion,
Yeah.
I'd go to church. I mean, I I renounced the church at one point. I'd say somewhere over 10 years ago, but I didn't renounce God, right? I
Yeah.
still carry that in my heart, but I don't go to church, right? I
Yeah.
don't think it's a reflection of what that's supposed to be at all, especially today. But yeah, I don't know. That's probably an all over the place answer, but there was definitely changes that stemmed from it, and then other experiences.
No, you answered it the best way that you could. I apologize for not phrasing it
It's all
better.
right.
You know, in a weird way, man, this one it's rough on me because I know nobody on here knows about it, but a lot of the things that you went through, my friend Z did.
Yeah.
And it just, I knew this one was going to be rough, but it's hitting. um,
Yeah.
I apologize.
It's all right, dude. You got to be real. You got to let yourself feel the feelings, write it, and just that's part of healing. I
Yeah.
still come to tears all the time about stuff I went through, and seeing other people going through it. I have empathy, so I wouldn't worry. Just let yourself feel it.
I know, man. It's still something I'm working on. I don't ever like just saying that it's a story or anything like that, because people deserve a lot more respect than that. But I know what he went through, and I can't speak firsthand. I can't, because it wasn't me, but I know what he went through. He ended up splintering himself. He would hide away parts of him, and it affected it affected. I mean, I'll be honest, it affected our friendship. We were only friends for a few years before he ended up passing away. But it affected our friendship in the way where sometimes it wasn't the real him, if that makes sense. It's like you could see him and you knew he was in there, but because of what he was going through, it was portraying something else. And that's why I asked if you felt like you needed to go into survival mode, because I know he did. I also think that's probably why I've not been able to formulate my words so well on this episode, because it's a lot of callbacks.
Yeah.
I apologize, man. I really do.
So I know what you're feeling. I know what you're expressing as far as being able to find the words.
Yeah. It's
So I was gonna say that something that I say is always, like, I'm not always the best, example of it, but you gotta let yourself feel it. You gotta let yourself mourn. There's no timestamp or time frame on how long it takes to mourn anything.
yeah.
If people watching this want to see that and see you get emotional like that, go weak, or it's like they just don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk ill of them for it, but it's just they don't get it. But maybe they should take a second to think, well, has there been anything that I've been through that would get me to that point? And right there is where they would find the common ground with you and have something click about, oh, so like what me and Aaron were talking about is more understanding, less thinking you understand, less
Yeah.
judgy kind of reactions, less of wanting to be right, because it's not about being right. So, but human beings are imperfect creatures.
They are.
So, yeah, that's going to take probably lifetimes for us to, if we ever do get to that point of understanding where everybody just gets each other. So, just I get it.
Well, no, I like I said, man, I'm an apologetic person, unfortunately. It just, but I'll try and get back my train of thought. Sorry, Will.
It's all right.
So we've discussed and touched on how it was building friendships and dealing with relationships. How do you feel about where you are now from where you came from?
I mean, I want to say I feel good. And I was talking to Cutter in a message some time ago. It was pretty recent, where he commented on a post where I was talking about my dad and how I was wanting to mold myself into a better version of who I am now. And he made a point that you've already been molded, like, you ever feel like you get stuck in this cycle where you think you have to change yourself for yourself because you think that how you are now isn't a fit for the people around you? And his point was, it shouldn't be about fitting other people's lives. And that, no, I feel good about myself, but honestly, yeah, I do have plenty of moments where sometimes, like, I'll look, like cliche as it sounds, look in a mirror or get to thinking in my own head about things that I do that I don't like, that make me think I'm going down a road that's going to be dark. But I know in my heart and my mind that I'm an optimistic person. And so
Hmm.
those thoughts are just intrusive and they're lies.
Yeah.
So I just tell myself I'm much better than that kid that I was and where I came from. And as crappy as that situation was, I don't know if I'd be who I am and how I am now if I hadn't been through what I was.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of
Yeah.
what Cutter's point was, is that no, you don't need to be changing yourself now when what you were going through is what made you.
Hmm.
So those dark times in your life or those low points that you've hit, I think flip it around, and instead of viewing it like they're negatives, view it as building blocks, or, you know, like that doesn't make me bad, you know, like for you, you know, like how you feel about Z or how you feel about yourself sometimes, because you can be down on yourself. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've tried to be training my mind to just drop of a hat, just pull myself out of that thinking. I still get in low depressive states, but I'm a much better in a much better spot than I was then, for sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now,
I can say that with 100% confidence.
That's great to hear, though, too, because there's some people that can't pull themselves, you know.
Oh, I know one.
Yeah. And oh man, I really appreciate you coming on here and being as candid as you are about this, because even though I don't have firsthand experience, like I said, this means a lot to me.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly been more helpful for me, probably. So I apologize for that.
No, like I would say if you need to go off on, you know, little things about you when you're supposed to be talking and interviewing me, just do it. Because I say it's something you need if you find yourself doing it. So I would just encourage you to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is honestly the first time I've ever, you know, spoke about him in a public platform.
yeah.
So it's just, I've told you a lot of the backstory, and I don't necessarily know if it's accurate, if it's appropriate to say anything about it right now, but it just a lot of what you're saying hits. I don't know how many times I can repeat that, but it just you took me back to being that friend of his when I was 15, man, and I just, from the outside looking in, man, I just wanted to take him away from everything, bro.
Yeah.
I couldn't, but you know.
You know,
But
that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. And I actually, there was a friend I had at a point in my life that I met in 8th grade. I saw this kid that was being bullied a lot, that was misunderstood, who went through a very traumatic car accident when he was a kid, and like had his stomach just all messed up, and it made him have a very ugly view of himself and a very ugly view of the world. And so, being the kind of person I am, I understand. So what you're explaining, a lot of people would call like a savior complex, right?
yeah.
But what it's more about, as far as the people that aren't coming from that place where they just want the good feeling that comes from being able to help someone out of something, where I was coming from with this friend, was a friend, is that just wanting to be there for somebody that you see struggling so bad, or that just nobody wanted to take time to hear them out or get to know them, is important. You may not have been able to, you know, help Z like you would want and have him here now, but just maybe think of it like this, because I'll be honest, I quit on this person that I'm talking about. He's still here, but I just decided that, you know what, I need to step away and just remove myself from this person's life, because it became very clear that I wasn't going to be any kind of force beyond what I'd already had been for him to make any changes for himself. Because that was my whole point when I would talk to him and his anger issues that he had, because he would be playing a game and he'd just start pounding on his computer desk and his knuckles would bleed. And I just have to excuse myself from his house and go home because I just didn't want to be around it.
Yeah.
I would try and talk him down, but most of the time it just wouldn't work. So just maybe think of it this way. you may not have been inside of Z's head, but there's probably a part of him with what you were trying to be for him that he appreciated, that did help in ways that he might not have been able to express to you.
Yeah.
And him leaving, I very highly doubt had anything to do with what you did. I mean, that might be a stretch to say, but you know, that's just sometimes how it goes, right? You're not able to get through.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
I'll say, you know, one more part of with Z, but I know he appreciated what I did because I was fortunate enough to be the last person he spoke to. But yeah. You know, we were talking about how the trauma, well, what Cutter was saying, how the trauma molded you. And me and my friend, we often talk about, you know, if we could go back in time and change things, would we do it? But we also talk about the butterfly effect, where it's like you change one little thing and you don't know what you could be. And it's like, you know, it's like Chris said, you know, most of his music is his trauma in music form. And it's like you
yeah, I can tell.
yeah, and you take that away, and I mean, I feel like we're talking to two completely different individuals right now. So I guess obviously writing has helped you. I'm trying to formulate. Man, I apologize, everybody. I really do. This one is. This one's got me all jacked up, so I apologize. You know, fuck it. There's not enough people that are compassionate enough to the people that go through this, man. People often look at them like they're crying wolf, and like they're not being heard because they're kids, or you know, they're grown men or grown women who are stuck in these situations, and they're often just being told, hey, leave the situation. And you can't always do that. And I just, it breaks my heart, man. I was looking at a statistic earlier on here. I think it's from the National Children's Alliance, man. And it said, as of 2023, there's over 600,000 cases of child abuse. And it's, I mean, put that in perspective, man. Like that fucking is frightening, dude. Yeah. Like the amount of silent screams, I guess, would be the right way to say it, man. And it's like they're just going unheard. And even when they are going to somebody, I feel like, you know, they're not being taken seriously. And what if you could do anything to change that, what do you think would be a good way to go about doing it?
So something right off the bat that I would tell anybody is that stop looking at the child that's expressing that they're going through something like that as somebody who's just looking for attention.
Yeah.
Because that's a mistake that a lot of people think, is that this kid's wanting attention, or there's no way that this kid understands what it is that they're talking about, you know, which why wouldn't they when they're the ones that are going through it? You know, the big mistake the biggest mistake that people can make with a child going through that is not taking it seriously. You know, if I heard or seen a kid that was being treated any kind of way that wasn't disciplined, that, how would I word it? So I feel like I know what discipline looks like versus
aggressive.
aggression and abuse. I would stand up. So yeah, just take it seriously. If a kid's coming to you, that's the cry for help that you need to hear.
Yeah.
The jobs that people have that deal with those cases every day, their hearts are broken every day with the kids that they see in these foster homes. They're from that, or just at all, and that aren't getting adopted that because they appear to have like an anger issue or they don't get along with others. Think about the reason why.
Yeah.
They think it's because they don't want to get along with people. No, what they're doing is they're pushing people away because they're afraid that the person's going to just treat them the same way as what they already know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get this. It's just a defense mechanism for survival. I did that. I maybe wasn't a violent kid, but I acted out in my own ways. I would have screaming matches with my mom. I'm not proud of that, but it all stemmed from what I was a product of, right?
Yeah.
So just having that understanding, sitting down with the kid and just hearing them out and showing them that there's compassion and empathy, and that just stop looking at them like they're just some kid that's just out for attention and thinks it's funny to put their parents or whoever that might be doing this to them under a flame or over a flame, lighting their ass up or whatever you would call it, like get them in trouble, or I don't know, just listen, hear them, you don't do them any favors thinking that they're just crying wolf, like you said, that's a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, I think a lot of the crying wolf comes from, a lot of the times we do see these false allegations pop up.
Yeah, they exist.
And there are genuinely good people that get dragged through the mud over these accusations, but there's also so many more cases where it's actually true. And because of the people that are saying that it's not happening, those get overlooked, and those are the ones that are often sometimes too late to be fixed. I know we're coming up on an hour. Do I have you for a little bit longer, or do you gotta wrap it up here in a minute?
Probably fine for a while, a little bit.
Fine for a while? All right, man. So I apologize, man. This has been, like I said, I knew what I was getting into. I didn't expect myself to react this way. bit of a horrible host over here. So
it's called being real human.
Yeah, I know. So you obviously grew out of that environment and you're flourishing, I think, honestly. Every time I talk to you, you like you said, you're the ultimate optimistic person, in my opinion, man. Like you always try to look at the glass half full, in my opinion. I don't think you were always that way, because we were talking about it earlier, but how did that mindset really help shift from everything that happened?
Just the desire to be better than it all.
Yeah.
Be that force of understanding for other people that are in it and, going through it. You can't, I guess I had a really early understanding that if I wanted to be different from what he was, then I needed to start working on that now. When I was a kid, and so I'm like, so I don't like all this angry yelling and just this, all that bad, I guess. So my choice was to just decide at some point when I was young that I'm just going to try and be as happy as I can be and as optimistic as I can be, because I feel like that will serve me better in life than just letting everything get to me and get under my skin. And not saying that things don't or can't, because it does still happen, but I feel like because of the mindset that I got, that I may be a little bit better equipped than other people to deal with it and understand the steps I need to take to just put it to bed, I guess, and be done with it. So yeah, just it was a choice early on. I wanted to be different than what I knew. And I think that's for a lot of people would probably say that from different walks of life, it's just, you make the choice and doesn't always stick. Sometimes I guess you could use the term for addicts that, you relapse into what you were once, the lifestyle or, your experience from another part of your life or time of your life.
Yeah.
So it's not always the easiest thing to do. I mean, thinking back, I'm like, well, was it easy for me to switch my mind like that and just mold it around optimism and stuff? I couldn't tell you, honestly. I was pretty young. But maybe it was a survival thing, an instinctual thing to do. Like, part of me just knew what I needed to do for me.
So you said that you think it might have been a survival thing. Do you think it was to keep your mind away from the negativity that was going on, that you just became the ultimate optimist?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said, you've come a long way, and I truly think you're gonna go farther. So we'll pick it up a little bit here. Try and climb out of the darkness that I put us in here.
Yeah, where's the sunlight?
I know, right? Freaking puts the lotion on the skin over here.
Maybe I'll go watch Joe Dirt after this. Who knows?
I'm covered in poo. But no. So what is on the horizon for Liars Pacifist? You just had the amazing interview that I encourage everybody who's watching to go check out with Aaron Nordstrom. And the two-parter with Matt from Simon Says as well. All killer, in my opinion. So
besides the half hour of me looking at the camera at the start.
Oh, come on. We don't talk about that.
I kind of laugh at that. So
just put that up on YouTube and then just have it as an ad. But no, what's next?
I mean, right now it's still just, for the most part, the interviews that I have. I've been trying to get a hold of one in particular that I haven't been able to get a response as far as what time he wants to do it. He wants to do it, but seems like a pretty busy guy. And then David Galloway from Element 80 has said, heck yeah, I'll do one. Just got to figure out the time, because he's busy. And for anybody that doesn't know, his band is Element 80. He's had solo stuff. He's put out some solo music, which is also great stuff. But Element 80 is the band that he's in, and has always basically been in. They were inactive for a time, and then, like what Simon Says, decided they wanted to come back and do the music thing again, and they reconnected. I think they always stayed pretty good friends, honestly. I don't think there was ever any bad blood with any of those guys, but and throughout the years, they actually did play one-off shows, so they never completely became an inactive band. But David Galloway, I just got to figure out when we could do it. I'm really excited for that one, because I honestly think he's one of the most unique voices from
that era,
new metal age,
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that one. We got to do ours. I'm excited to talk with Pat.
Dude, you're not ready.
Chris. Just one reason why, I just think his accent's badass.
Oh man,
yeah. I'm jealous, because that accent is one that I just think it makes you sound I guess like an intellectual, you know. And if he's still watching this, he's probably laughing about that.
He's laughing in Phil Anselmo voice.
Yeah. So I still have that. I still need to talk with. I don't know if you've checked out any more Sever Red.
Yeah, I have, dude.
I hope he hasn't. I hope he doesn't feel like I've forgotten about our interview. It's not that I got distracted, and when and other ones come up where I made that. I feel like I made other ones happen before others that were already scheduled. Which, sorry everyone for that. Not on purpose. It's just excitement with me. I'm just like, oh crap, Aaron Nordstrom or and stuff like that. So I think maybe next week or the weekend after, I'm gonna do one of my first album reviews. I want to post up. It may not be a newer collection of music. I might start with stuff that I love, through the years. Yeah, I don't know. It's I have a layout. Mostly it's still going to just be the band interview stuff, but I do know that I need to have additional content, but I'm not going to make it a huge pressure like I have to do it in any kind of time frame.
Mm-hmm.
It'll happen when it happens. But the primary focus is going to be the band interview stuff, and I do think I might do like brief, like maybe 10-minute, 8-minute, 15-minute things where I'm just talking about something, I think I might test that out. Don't have a ton of viewers yet, but that's not really something I'm super concerned about.
Yeah.
People, if they find it and they like it and they subscribe, that's cool. I'm always going to welcome an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Put myself out there has been a little bit weird, but I want to do it. So that's why I'm doing it. So that's kind of a little bit of a look of what's to come. More of the same, some new.
So you were just saying that, putting yourself out there is difficult, because I remember the last episode you were talking about having stage fright.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here watching you. I'm like, this son of a bitch is so natural. Like, I'm jealous over here. And
maybe the stage fright is just a made up thing in my head. Who knows?
It's a mirage. That's what's going on. So you were talking about doing album reviews, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a plug here and ask you if you would be willing to review the new Six Scars album.
I give it a 1 out of 10.
I appreciate it.
No.
That's being gracious, man. Like,
yeah,
it's basic pond water.
Yeah, what I tell people when I show them your music, and I say, and it's not in a negative way either at all. I say his voice may not be for everybody, but I love your voice, and that's why one of the elements of the music you make that draws me to it. Right? You don't need to sound like freaking Chester Bennington or like some singer in any kind of music to warrant someone to check you out,
Yeah.
And so, just if you want to, send it to me, do that. I'll check it out.
I would love that, actually, man, because I was thinking about it the other day, because I remembered you talking about possibly doing album reviews. I was like, is it too much of a plug just to ask him to do it?
If it was too much of a plug, I wouldn't have agreed with Pat to put his song in my intro.
I know, right? But
because my whole mindset of this is we're a community.
Yeah.
So plug away, like it's why not,
Yeah. I know it is getting a little bit past our regular time, so I'll wrap it up here in a few minutes, but we talked off air about this, so we're going to do it. The band that comes to mind right now, we were talking about earlier, Breaking Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite albums. Can you rank them?
Well, hold on a minute. Pull up my iTunes, because believe it or not, I don't remember every album title, and that's not a reflection of how diehard Yeah,
I get it
not
completely.
that I would care if people be like, "You're not a diehard Breaking Benjamin fan if you can't name the albums." Like, well, let's see you name them all. So obviously, so I started with Saturate. My
Same.
friend Kyle's parents bought him Saturate for one of his birthdays, and Polyamorous was the first song I'd ever heard from Breaking Benjamin. And right off the bat, I thought, oh, Benjamin Burnley. I didn't know his name at the time, but I was like, huh, kind of a different sounding guy. It's almost like he sings with an accent, but he's American, you know. The way he sings and the way he pronounces his words in his music made it sound like he might speak with some kind of dialect, right? But so Saturate, though, believe it or not, I don't rate real high at the top. It's a great record, but it's kind of down in the lower tier for me. So between We're Not Alone and Phobia, I would say it would be my two favorites. And so Dear Agony is the album to me where I feel like they fell off a little bit as far as creativity went. But I say that with complete respect of the album and knowing that it came at the time from a place from Ben where he was going through something pretty difficult with the illness that he had.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Dear Agony, and the album cover is a scan of his brain.
Yep, I was getting ready to say that.
So I got what the album was about, but the music itself, not all of it. I didn't dislike the sound of it. It just kind of, I felt like it could have been done not bigger, but just. I thought it was kind of a lot of same kind of sounding stuff on that record. Yeah. But then also, I love Ember. Their most recent full electric album, I thought was real, like some of their heaviest stuff too.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like they came back with Dark Before the Dawn, and that was almost like a glimpse at what they were going to do after that record. Yeah. And I think the one that's going to be coming out, I think it's supposed to be this year, is going to be even heavier.
I'm hoping, man. I'm really hoping.
So yeah, they're actually a band that's been pretty important to me, obviously. So that's how I rate their discography. You know, I have Phobia and We Are Not Alone at the top, and then Ember under that, then Dark Before Dawn, and then their acoustic album Aura is actually pretty good.
It is. It is, especially the track with Lacey.
Yeah, I would say Saturate's probably my least favorite, but not because it's bad. Not at all.
That's fair. So, I think for mine, Phobia is, for me, it's the top tier. Phobia was the album that I listened to while I was in the hospital during and after my brain surgeries. That was the album that got me through a lot. So that, like, I had my this is showing my age here a little bit, I suppose, but I hate that I'm saying it this way, but I had my ex-girlfriend's iPod Nano that she let me use.
I still have one of those.
Yeah. Well, like, it was bright pink, and I was just like, well, okay, well, you know, it is what it is. But I had loaded like Emery, Breaking Benjamin, and everything on there, and then after everything with the surgeries happened, man, I just sat there and listened to Phobia on repeat. That album drove my inspiration level through the roof. The very first album I ever heard, though, just like you, was Saturate. I think I heard it because I think it came out in 2001. 2000.
Yeah, I think it was around the same year as Hybrid Theory.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
I remember listening to it, and I think I was like, I think I heard a track in passing. I don't even remember. I think it might have been through LimeWire. That crazy thing. Then, yeah. Then I also found I used to play a bunch of wrestling games, and they had Polyamorous on Day of Reckoning for WWE, along with it was a bonus track off of the We Are Not Alone, Ordinary Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that track. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but nobody does. So anyway, going back to the ranking, for me, it goes Phobia at the top, and then I would probably say We Are Not Alone right below it. That one just has so many amazing hooks. Like Rain on that album, you can't go wrong with. Away, you just pick a song on there and you can listen to it. After that, Ember, I think would be there.
It's great.
Oh, dude, Ember was not what I was expecting. That I'll say that. To be honest, Dark Before Dawn is probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
I felt I saw where they were coming from, and that was also with the new lineup. So like I was, giving them their just due, but I felt like they went a little too radio rock on that album.
Yeah.
Which is funny to say because Dear Agony is also higher up on mine.
Yeah, that's funny.
I know. Well, I think the lyrics resonated because it came out the year after my surgeries. So it was kind of like the album that was the linchpin for my recovery.
It makes me think of Fear Factory.
Oh, linchpin? Yeah, dude. Come on now.
Yeah. Pissing me off that Burton isn't with them anymore, but things worked out how they did.
I know, man. I was supposed to see them, what was it, at Blue Ridge a few years ago.
Hey, we don't talk about Blue Ridge. What are you doing?
Well, it wasn't this last year's. I can say it. Like, it was the good one that I actually got to experience. But no. Breaking Benjamin, man, they're always gonna have a special place in my heart. They're right up there with Linkin Park, and Killswitch Engage. There's those bands that just hit you and they stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And
speaking of Killswitch, I think I almost fell out of my computer chair when the riff for My Last Serenade hit. I was like, that was my intro to those guys. And that's just, man. So obviously Howard is the more blessed vocalist, right? That guy's
yeah.
But Jesse in his own right, to me, is always going to be the better fit for the band. Not because he is the original vocalist, but just because his execution, I feel like, just fits better with the music.
Mm-hmm.
He even sings Howard's songs really well, in my opinion. He's so conscious of the fact, though, that he knows that he's not as accomplished of a vocalist, but he's also so experienced where with the voice that he has, he knows exactly what he needs to do with his songs to do them justice, So.
Yeah. It's like for Killswitch, I put, as far as my favorite albums, Alive or Just Breathing, As Daylight Dies.
Yeah.
And it's like they'll never change for me, man. I love the rawness of Jesse that he puts into it. Howard, like you said, he has that more melodic tone that you can just it's almost it's very soulful.
Yeah, when I first heard him as the new vocalist, I was almost gonna say that, man, he just doesn't work with this. He's almost too gospel-y. He's almost too almost like choir-esque or church-like kind of sounding delivery. But then I was like, okay, no. Open your mind, give it a chance, give it time. And then I found myself, especially when End of Heartache come out, I'm like, man, that's a good song. Or Rose of Chiron, I think it's called.
Sharon.
Man, the dude knew what he was doing.
Oh, dude. And the cover of Holy Diver, his vocals on that, man, say what you want about the studio version, but he can pull it off live. But man, I know we kind of went all over the place tonight, and truly, Will, I appreciate you, man. I don't think I could have really been that open if it was another person. I hate saying it that way, but it takes knowing somebody to be able to, freely talk like that. So I appreciate you letting me. And I hope it I hope it did something for you as well too, man.
Sure.
It was, I don't know if it was what we expected, and maybe I didn't do it justice, but it's not something that should ever be taken lightly. We touched on it already, but I want to reiterate, you know, if there's anybody that is going through not just this either, if there's anybody going through anything, you know, SA, substance abuse, you name it, reach out to somebody. Hell, reach out to me. Like, I mean, I can't do too much from my location, but like, if you need somebody to talk to, just reach out to somebody. And if somebody doesn't answer, try another person, because it's easier to run than talk about it, but you feel better when you do talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think ultimately, man, I kind of want that to be the message of this episode, is just, you know, it's not easy, but it needs to be done, and it needs to be talked about, and it needs to be discussed, because there's not enough discussion about it, man. There really isn't, and it just sucks. But yeah, I know this was a heavy episode, and man, I'm grateful for you, Will. Truly.
Yeah, no problem.
And you know, man, anytime you ever want to come back on, I don't care if you're a freaking guest host. We'll get another person on here. Let's get Pat. Let's just roast him.
Well, I did say that we should try doing a one where it's got 4 of us or 3 of us talking about things, you know.
Yeah, I would love to do that, honestly. Hopefully I can get that going at some point.
Yeah, we could call it Beyond the Breakdown Podcast, The Cage.
Cage match. Who's gonna tap out or submit first? Yeah. But no, man, I will let you go, and truly just thank you, man. Thank you for letting me be me. Like,
very welcome.
From the heart, dude. I'm all over the place tonight, so my mind is just it's been all over the place for the last week or so, like I said. But truly, man, thanks for letting me be me, and thank you for just letting me find my footing. Basically being my little, you know, lab experiment, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to being your lab experiment as well.
Yeah, next Saturday, you said, was it?
Yes. As long as that's still good with you, that will be the plan, man.
Yeah.
So with that, Will, I will let you go, brother, and I will catch you on the next one, man. All right. Thank you again, dude. See you
later.
So, guys, I don't have the words to say. I feel bad. Genuinely, I feel bad that my mind was distracted tonight. Will deserves absolutely all the credit and admiration for being willing to talk about what he went through. He knows a little bit more of what I was discussing tonight, and he understands, but I still feel guilty for not being able to be as present in this episode. This is just a topic that, you know, not a lot of people really get to see this side of me, I guess. So I feel bad. But I will do better. That's what I'll say. I will do better. I will make sure I do better on this. It was just a really hard one, guys. So thank you for going beyond the breakdown with 6 scars. Next week, I have a doubleheader. This one's going to be fun. It is going to be energetic, and it is just going to be an absolute blast. I have Mindy Jackson from the amazing band Dying Oath. She will be here next weekend on the Beyond the Breakdown podcast. And then following her, I have Matt Sassano out of Knoxville. Don't know who he is? Be sure to tune in. Thank you from the heart, guys. You all are watching, and you're seeing me fumble. You're seeing me grow as I hope what is a heartfelt host And I never want it to be misconstrued that I'm not. I love you guys. And like I said, if you need somebody, reach out. If you can't find somebody, keep reaching out, because I'd rather talk to you than not have you.